Okay, today we're going to talk about putting piston rings on pistons and gapping in. Questions about that on the phone, technical things, so we're going to try to solve it here so maybe people watch a YouTube video and figure out how we're going to do it. So this is the second episode of the tapes we're doing here, the videos. Right here we got a JE piston. It's a 3 15/16 piston. It's got no coatings on it as compared to this is a diamond piston here. It's a little different size, but it's got the ceramic coating on the side, Teflon coating on the skirts. And I'm on the fence if it helps or not. It helps maybe in certain situations, but not always. But first off, we're going to do this has the wrist pin runs through the middle of the oil ring right here because it's 875 pin height. So to support the oil rings, you got an oil rail support. Oil rail support has a little dimple right there, and that dimple, when you put it on, it goes. There's instructions usually it comes with it usually, but that goes on the piston. And the dimple is at the wrist pin facing downward. That dimple keeps this thing from spinning around. And when you put it on, just kind of work around with that and go in there and put it on. And then put your oil ring on. When you replace your rings down the road, when you got to replace your rings, you don't replace the oil rail support. That stays on the piston. The only time you got to take that off, you want to take the piston off the rod to take the wrist pin out. But that don't get replaced. And the oil ring, you should always put it. I usually put the ring in gap over there for that side, then put the other gap there on this one, and this end gap over here, so to overlap it. And then the second ring, all the other rings typically they have a mark or a dot that shows the top. That's always the top. There's like an N on these. That goes up. This is the second ring. The end goes up. Same with that one. The end goes up on the top ring. Now we're going to do ring in gap. These rings come oversized, so you need to gap them to get them the correct size. So this here is a 3 15/16 piston. So 3 15/16 is 3.9375. That's the size of that piston. Ring in gap calls for most our applications. You want 0.004 and half thousandths per inch of bore. So you want to take that number times that with the calculator. So you take 3.9375 times, I just go 4.5 equals 17.7188. So let's call it 18 thousandths in gap. So what you want to do is put the ring down on the bore, get it squared up at the top of the bore, then measure your gap right here. The ring in gap is the space between here and here, and you want that to be about 18 thousandths for proper ring in gap. The second ring typically requires 5.5 thousandths per inch of bore. So this is the top ring. The second ring is 0.005 thousandths per inch of bore. So whatever you do, so it's 3.9375 times 5.5 equals, let me redo that, I did that wrong, 3.9375 enter 5.5 times, that's 21.6563. So let's call that 22 thousandths in gap you want on that ring, and that's done the same way. Square up in the bore, and then and you got to file the ends of the ring. When you do that, you got to get a ring file. Now actually, you can buy them things that Jegs and Summit has them, and file the ring in gap, and to get the right amount. And that's what you have to do to get the ring in gap done. Now, the other thing you want to keep in mind too is if you're going to be running like exotic fuels like nitromethane or something like that, you got to increase that ring in gap wider because the nitromethane runs a lot hotter, so you want to keep it from butting up against each other. And that's about all you have to do for getting ring in gap to work.